This is Brief Briefing. A 10-year-old GameStop investor cashed in. His return over 5,000%. Jaden Carr of San Antonio made 3,200 on shares from GameStop this week that his mother bought him in 2019 for about $60. Very exciting, Jaden. We can see here. As amateurs investors banded together this week to squeeze Wall Street hedge funds by sending GameStop stock prices to dizzying highs, some novice traders like 10-year-old Jaden Carr of San Antonio have seen their long-term investments pay off. In December 2019, Jaden, then 8, was buying discounted games at GameStop and wishing for an Xbox One. Spying a way to use her son's enthusiasm for video games to teach him about investing, Jaden's mother, Nina Carr, decided to invest in 10 shares of GameStop at $6.19 a share for a Kwanzaa gift. Miss Carr handed her son a certificate she created from an online template to explain to him that he was the owner of a teeny part of GameStop. She told him the gift was in keeping with the spirit of Ujamaa, a cooperative economics, one of 7 principles of Kwanzaa. She added alerts on her phone and computer to track the stock's progress. Over the past few months, she noticed it steadily rise. But on Wednesday, to the shock of Miss Carr and her son, the value of GameStop's shares soared, soaring 1,700% since December after millions of small investors, many spurred on by social media, came together to put a squeeze on at least 2 hedge funds that had bet GameStop's shares would collapse. All of a sudden, I heard ding, 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 ding. Miss Carr, 31, referring to the stock alerts, said in an interview on Friday, I grabbed my phone and I was looking at it and it said 351. I was shocked. I bought this thing at $6. I thought there was no way this can be right. Miss Carr, a nutritionist, quickly pulled her son out of virtual learning and asked him what he wanted to do. I was trying to explain to him that this was unusual, she told MySanAntonio.com, a segment of San Antonio Express News. I asked him, do you want to stay or sell? Jaden decided to sell his shares, earning 3,200, a return of more than 5,000% on an investment of about $60. I felt shocked and excited at the same time, he said in a phone interview on Friday. He said he had decided to save 2,200 and invest the remaining 1,000 most likely in shares of Roblox, and multiplayer gaming universe popular with young children, if and when the platform goes public. Long-term investing is important because that is how I got this money, Jaden said. The surge has piqued Jaden's interest in amateur day trading. He's definitely ready to jump full force into the market, his mother said. Miss Carr said she became committed to teaching her son about financial literacy after Jaden's father, an Army combat medic, died in 2014 from combat-related complications. A certificate of deposit she opened with a death compensation payment provided an entry point to teach her son financial responsibility. Lessons she said she didn't learn until later in life. She has taught Jaden how to speak to a bank teller, how to save his money, how to use a debit card, when to recognize when something is an impulse purchase, and recently, the charming game of the stock market. In the African American community, that's a huge gap. that I wanted to fill in. Miss Carr said of teaching her son about the stock market. He's all I have left. He's my legacy. I wish more parents would do it. I think it would definitely interrupt a debt cycle to teach your kid about financial responsibility. Anything can happen to me, Miss Carr added. I just want him to make sure he understands the way of life, even when I'm not here. Very moving. DeFi, asset management, and overview. We are towards the end of an in-depth study of various macro areas of decentralized finance. At this time, we will focus on the management of assets and platforms that allow you to interact with them. The sector of digital assets and platforms that allow them to be managed is also interesting. In fact, we have previously talked about both the various protocols that allow you to manage assets of other blockchains and real digital assets designed with a very specific purpose. In this branch, we have both the various tokens that are pegged to other assets. For example, all those linked to Bitcoin, and both protocols and platforms that allow you to manage the same but also other digital assets, such as idle finance. In fact, systems and smart contracts have been born over time that have made it possible to improve and automate some aspects of trading, but also to manage a virtual portfolio with various assets, allowing you to buy or sell an asset based on the market trend and obtain the maximum result based on the parameters chosen by the user. Let's think, for example, of the combination of price trend charts and their median values that follow a more or less predictable pattern, and then decide whether once that point is reached, sell or appear the relative asset and obtain a profit or rebalance with respect to another asset. Then you sell one to buy another or convert into a stable coin to wait for the best time to return to operating with these systems. We are talking about really complicated tools, and even if the various interfaces are simple, it is difficult to understand their use and performance, especially for beginners or for those who approach this sector for the first time. These tools are incredible, as they may seem, always hide the problem of being monitored adequately, since the market trends can change suddenly and obtain both triple-digit gains and abysmal losses while also losing all the capital. So they must be used with knowledge of cause and control them, which certainly does not make you sleep peacefully. Management of these assets we do directly and without third parties who can take our place and guide us in the relative choices, which can be an advantage as we do not have to submit to the will of third parties, but which means that total responsibility falls on us, and without being able to appeal to someone for our mistakes. What platforms are there around? There are many platforms, and they vary according to the purpose we are interested in. Since if we want to move an asset from one blockchain to another, then we should use protocols that manage these assets, such as P tokens, as they cross-chain, and we have PBTC on both Ethereum and EOS, but also PETH on EOS, therefore exploiting the crypto of a blockchain on another faster and more scalable one, such as EOS. For the simplified management of assets and therefore of the set and forget series, we find idle finance on Ethereum, which not only allows us to have an interest in our stablecoins and WBTC, but also allows us to receive completely free tokens. That is, those related to the deposited asset, the idle tokens, and also the underlying protocol token, such as Compound, and then receive the comp tokens. So the advantage is threefold. While on EOS, we can interact with Pizza Finance, which allows the same functions that we find on Idle Finance, but on the EOS blockchain, and with lots of cryptocurrencies to deposit, including PBTC and PETH. Therefore, a significant advantage and also pizza tokens are obtained for the entire duration of the deposit, in addition, of course, to the interest, which in some cases are triple digits, such as the milk token, which returns at a rate APY of 282%. For those who prefer something more complex, then we see that on Ethereum we can use the token sets platform, as it is possible to decide the type of strategy to make our crypto and stable bear fruit, choosing or creating the one we prefer or according to our needs. Token sets is basically like a ETF for cryptocurrencies. On EOS, instead, we can explore a new platform that takes the name of SX Values. And in this case, we see that by depositing our EOS in a smart contract, which pays the audit, they will be managed in an optimal way and with various strategies to maximize the returns, and all without having to worry about doing particular operations. Given that the EOS are deposited, they will mature over time with an APY of 8%. How can I use these platforms? Obviously, as you can see, the platforms are many and on many blockchains, and you should know them all. But there are no problems from that point of view, because all this information and how to use the related protocols have been grouped in the first book that explains the various topics in detail, which takes the name Mastering DeFi, a practical guide for beginners. So if you're interested, you can go ahead and buy this gentleman's book, out free. And don't forget to always make sure that you're connected to the proper website. After GME, Dogecoin, and Bitcoin, Chinese traders are betting what will pump next. Rallies in GameStop shares, as well as Dogecoin and Bitcoin, are piquing the betting interest of traders in China, as much as they are in the United States on Wobi, the popular social media platform in China. The highly active crypto community is speculating on which cryptocurrency will be the next to get a major pump after Dogecoin and Bitcoin jumped in recent days. I would say look for a coin that's a complete joke, maybe contains a lot of meme power, maybe meme coin. I mean, that would be an ironic one. Where it's not that Ripple was struggling with its lawsuit, the next token being pumped by the retailers in the US could have been XRP, according to one Wobi account holder with nearly 40,000 followers. Many newcomers to crypto only look at prices and names, and they do not care how many times this particular token has taken away people's money, or whether it is highly centralized. It might be a good time to look into tokens that are associated with XRP the most. The post then continued, which was followed by several responses asking whether Stellar Lumens would be the next token to pump. Prices for XLM were trading at around 30 cents at press time, up 13% in the past 24 hours, and outperforming Bitcoin, according to CoinDesk 20. It's not yet just on Wobi. Chinese internet users have been surfing on English-based social media platforms, including Telegram, chat groups, Reddit, where the most recent bout of trading frenzy started originally. A tweet by Trons Justin Sun, which said he'd buy $1 million worth of GameStop stock to show his support to the Reddit community, was briefly pinned on the Reddit group R Wall Street Bets, the epicenter of the GME drama. Justin Sun, Asian billionaire, has our back and is joining in, the group post said. $1 trillion Mt. Gox dismisses as told by a Bitcoin insider. In early 2013, Peter Vanines was in his Seattle office working on a deal to obtain the North American customer operation of the world's largest Bitcoin exchange at the time, Mt. Gox, when his phone rang. Remember, anything can be hacked at any time, so secure your stuff. Not your keys, not your coins. Get control of it. We had caller ID back in the era, believe it or not, Vanessa said in an interview. And my caller ID says Sect Enforcement Division. I was like, OS. The team working on the deal had already run into trouble getting a look at the books. And now the main US securities regulator was asking him if he'd heard of a Tokyo-based exchange. The sect was working on an enforcement action and wanted him to testify in a case. As soon as we heard Gox was in a sect enforcement, I was pretty sure we were done, Vanessa said. He wasn't wrong. The deal fell through and Mt. Gox imploded in scandal. It quickly went bankrupt, leaving behind a horde of creditors across the globe. Is it time to overhaul the DeFi ecosystem already? So far, the story of blockchain each year brought a new trend. In 2017, each smart contract brought the concept of initial coin offerings. 2018 saw a rise in gaming application. 2019 brought focus on gambling apps. And 2020, unmistakably, the decentralized finance movement, by far the most impactful trend, and continues to grow. Direct matching of borrowers and lenders. Here we can see different things people are pondering about decentralized finance, direct peer-to-peer exchange and trading and risk-free mechanisms, stable coins in regards to the US, data markets in regards to people's personal data, wallets that control your own personal data. You get to sell it and you keep the money. And now, is it time for change? You can see here the inherent risks that lie within smart contracts, the problems with low liquidity, and the ever-rising gas fees on Ethereum 2.0. Only 2.0 can save us. Grayscale reopens the Ethereum Trust after altcoins registration bonanza. The world's biggest crypto asset management firm may be preparing to give its clients more products in which to invest. Streamlining the developer onboarding process, a how-to guide. Time to first commit. Through the years, my teams have had a great success with onboarding, in parts by focusing on the metric called time to first commit. It's exactly as it sounds. It's the time it takes from when the new person first sits down at their desk to the time when they've landed their first commit to the version control system. At Prismatic, we focus quite a bit on two key areas that have helped improve time to first commit. Seems like Prismatic is looking to get some contracts to make some Ethereum improvements. Don't forget, like, subscribe, hit the bell notification. Mark Cuban reveals what's in his Ethereum wallet. Mark Cuban owns the Dallas Mavericks, appears regularly on the investment show Shark Tank and has a net worth above 4 billion. But what everyone really wants to know, what type of cryptocurrency does he own? Turns out quite a few Ethereum-based DeFi tokens, scratching the bottom of CoinGecko listings. Cuban wrote on Twitter today, I definitely got my share of S-Coins. You can trace it by looking at the account that funded this wearable address. Mark Cuban replies, look what I found. The roll-up 2021 collectible at Rarible.com. Rarible is a pretty sweet coin, so nice work, Cuban. That revelation came about from a clip Cuban posted to Twitter from him dancing in Mavericks gear. That clip can be purchased from his account on Rarible, a marketplace for non-fungible tokens, digital collectibles on the blockchain. Cuban's profile includes a public address, which is in turn funded by another wallet discovered thanks to sleuthing from the blog head of research Steven Zhang. The wallet features a hodgepodge of ARC20 tokens, such as Open Governance Token, Hive, MASQ, worth a little over half of an ETH. Cuban's shift toward crypto icon is in progress. In April 2020, the billionaire investor said he owned only about 130 in Bitcoin, but earlier this month, he revealed he's been more invested than he previously disclosed and had holdings in Coinbase. Of course, Hive and Nasdaq don't quite have the cachet to be listed on Coinbase. Cachet. An in-depth guide to hybrid layer 2 protocols written by Vitalik Buterin. If you are new to cryptocurrency or computer programming on top of the blockchain, you've never heard of this, do not feel intimidated. Go ahead and take a listen. You should know how whatever you're freaking investing in operates. It's good. And you never know, you could have a skill for this. You could be good at building on top of Ethereum. If you are a young person, no matter what age range, you can get this done. Getting into the meat and potatoes, currently approaches to layer 2 scaling, basically plasma, and state channels are increasingly moving from theory to practice. But at the same time, it is quite becoming easier to see the inherent challenges in treating these techniques as a fully fledged scaling solution for Ethereum. Ethereum was arguably successful in large part because of its very easy developer experience. You write a program, publish the program, and anyone can interact with it. Designing a state channel or plasma application, on the other hand, relies on a lot of explicit reasoning about incentives and application-specific development complexity. State channels work well for specific use cases, such as repeated payments between the same two parties and two-player games, as successfully implemented in Stellar. But more generalized usage is proving challenging. Plasma, particularly Plasma Cash, can work well for payments, but generalization similarly incurs challenges. Even implementing a decentralized exchange requires clients to store much more history data, and generalizing to Ethereum-style smart contracts on Plasma seems extremely difficult. But at the same time, there is a resurgence of a forgotten category of semi-layer 2 protocols, a category which promises less extreme gains in scaling, but with the benefit of much easier generalization and more favorable security models. A long forgotten blog post from 2014 introduced the idea of shadow chains, an architecture where block data is published on chain, but blocks are not verified by default. Rather, blocks are attentively accepted and only finalized after some period of time, 2 weeks. During those 2 weeks, a tentatively accepted block can be challenged. Only then is the block verified. And if the block proves to be invalid, then the chain from that block on is reverted, and the original publisher deposit is penalized. This is Optimism Rollup. The contract does not keep track of the full state of the system. It only keeps track of the state root. The users themselves can calculate the state by processing the data submitted to the chain from start to head. A more recent proposal, ZK Rollup, does the same thing without challenge periods by using ZK snarks to verify blocks validity. So we can see how it works. You have the new state, a record of the previous state, and a snark of around 100 to 300 bytes of cryptographic proof that proves the previous state root. It seems that this data would be sufficient to allow anyone to independently calculate the full updated state tree. A package may contain hundreds of deltas or more. Nice. Anatomy of a ZK Rollup package that is published on chain. Hundreds of internal transactions that affect the state, i.e. account balances of the ZK Rollup system, are compressed into a package that contains 10 bytes per internal transaction that specifies the state transitions plus a 100 to 300 byte snark, proving that the transitions are all valid. In both cases, the main chain is used to verify data availability, but does not directly verify block validity or perform any significant computation. Unless challenges are made, this technique is thus not a jaw-dropping huge scalability gain, because the on-chain data overhead eventually presents a bottleneck, but it is nevertheless a very significant one. Data is cheaper than computation, and there are ways to compress transaction data very significantly, particularly because the great majority of data in a transaction is the signature, and many signatures can be compressed into one through many forms of aggregation. ZK Rollups promises 500 transactions per second, a 30x gain over the Ethereum chain itself, by compressing each transaction to a mere 10 bytes. Signatures do not need to be included because their validity is verified by the zero knowledge proof. With BLS aggregate signatures, a similar throughput can be achieved in shadow chains, more recently called Optimistic Rollup. To highlight its similarities to ZK Rollups, the upcoming Istanbul hard fork will reduce gas cost of data from 68 per byte to 16 per byte, increasing the throughput of these techniques by more than 4x. That's over 2,000 transactions per second. So what is the benefit of data on-chain techniques such as ZK Optimistic Rollups versus data off-chain techniques such as Plasma? First of all, there is no need for semi-trusted operators in ZK Rollups because validity is verified by cryptographic proofs. There is literally no way for a package submitter to be malicious depending on the setup. A malicious submitter may cause the system to halt for a few seconds, but this is most harm that can be done. If you are new to blockchain, stay with me. You can do this. We believe in you. In optimistic rollup, a malicious submitter can publish a bad block, but the next submitter will immediately challenge that block before publishing their own. In both ZK and optimistic rollup, enough data is published on chain to allow anyone to compute the complete internal state, simply by processing all of the submitted deltas in order, and there is no data withholding attack that can take this properly away. Hence, becoming an operator can be fully permissionless. All that is needed is a security deposit like 10 ETH for anti-spam purposes. You heard it here on Brief Briefing. With 10 ETH, you will possibly be able to run an optimistic node. Very interesting. Could there be an optimism token also to lock at the same time in order to protect the Ethereum network? Second, optimistic rollup particularly is vastly easier to generalize. The state transition function in an optimistic rollup system can be literally anything that can be computed within the gas limit of a single block, including the Merkle branches, providing the parts of the state needed to verify the transaction. ZK rollup is theoretically generalizable in the same way, though in practice, making ZK snarks over general purpose computation, such as a EVM execution, is very difficult, at least for now. Third, optimistic rollup is much easier to build clients for, as there is less need for second layer networking infrastructure. More can be done by just scanning the blockchain. But where do these advantages come from? The answer lies in a highly technical issue known as the data availability problem. Basically, there are two ways to try to cheat in layer 2 systems. The first is to publish invalid data to the blockchain. The second is to not publish data at all, e.g. in Plasma, publishing the root hash of a new Plasma block to the main chain, but without revealing the contents of the block to anyone. Published but invalid data is very easy to deal with, because once the data is published on chain, there are multiple ways to figure out unambiguously whether or not it's valid. An invalid submission is unambiguously invalid, so the submitter can be heavily penalized. Unavailable data, on the other hand, is much harder to deal with, because even though unavailability can be detected if challenged, one cannot reliably determine whose fault the non-publication is, especially if data is withheld by default and revealed on demand only when some verification mechanism tries to verify its availability. This is illustrated in the Fisherman Dilemma, which shows how a challenge response game cannot distinguish between malicious submitters and malicious challengers. The Fisherman's Dilemma. If you only start watching the given specific piece of data at time t3, you have no idea whether you are living in case 1 or case 2, and hence, who is at fault. Plasma and channels both work around the Fisherman's Dilemma by pushing the problem to users. If you, as a user, decide that another user you are interacting with, a counterparty in a state channel, an operator in a Plasma chain, is not publishing data that they should be publishing, it's your responsibility to exit and move to a different counterparty operator. The fact that you as a user have all of the previous data and the data about all of the transactions you signed allows you to prove to the chain what assets you held inside the layer 2 protocol and thus safely bring them out of the system. You prove the existence of a previously agreed operation that gave the asset to you. No one else can prove the existence of an operation approved by you that sent the asset to someone else. So you get the asset back. The technique is very elegant. However, it relies on a key assumption that every state object has a logical owner, and the state of the object cannot be changed without the owner's consent. This works well for UTXO-based payments, but not account-based payments, where you can edit someone else's balance upward without their consent. This is why account-based plasma is so hard, and it can even be made to work for a decentralized exchange. But this ownership property is far from universal. Some applications, IG, Uniswap, don't have a natural owner. And even in those applications that do, there are often multiple people that can legitimately make edits to the project. And there is no way to allow arbitrary third parties to exit an asset without introducing the possibility of denial of service attacks. Precisely because one cannot prove whether the publisher or submitter is at fault. There are other issues peculiar to Plasma and channels individually. Channels do not allow off-chain transactions to users that are not already part of the channel. Plasma requires users to store large amounts of history data, which gets even bigger when different assets can be intertwined. Because data on-chain computation off-chain layer 2 techniques don't have data availability issues, they have none of these weaknesses. ZK and optimistic rollup take great care to put enough data on-chain to allow users to calculate the full state of the layer 2 system, ensuring that if any participant disappears, a new one can trivially take their place. The only issue that they have is verifying computation without doing the computation on chain, which is a much easier problem. And the scalability gains are significant. 10 bytes per transaction in ZK rollups and a similar level of scalability can be achieved in optimistic rollup by using BLS aggregation to aggregate signatures. This corresponds to a theoretical maximum of 500 transactions per second today, over 2,000 post Istanbul. But what if you want more scalability? Then there is a large middle ground between data on-chain layer 2 and data off-chain layer 2 protocols, with many hybrid approaches that give you some of the benefits of both. To give a simple example, the history storage blowup in a decentralized exchange implemented on Plasma Cash can be prevented by publishing a mapping of which orders are matched with which orders. That's less than 4 bytes per order on chain. Here we can see on the left the history the owner of the coin needs to have for a one Plasma Cash coin. In the middle, the history owner needs to own if they performed an atomic swap. And on the right is the history that is published on chain. If you're still here and you're new to cryptocurrency, you can do this. You can get this knowledge and acquire it and improve your strategy. Don't forget, like, subscribe. Let us go on. Even outside of the decentralized and exchange context, the amount of history that users need to store in Plasma can be reduced by having the Plasma chain periodically publish some pure user data on chain. One could also imagine a platform which works like Plasma in the case where some state does have a logical owner, and works like ZK or Optimistic Rollup in the case where it does not. Plasma developers are already starting to work on these kinds of optimizations. There is thus a strong case to be made for developers of layer 2 scalability solutions to move to be more willing to publish peer user data on chain at least some of the time. It greatly increases ease of development, generality, and security, and reduces per user load, i.g. no need for users storing history data. The efficiency losses of doing so are also overstated. Even in a fully off-chain layer 2 architecture, users depositing, withdrawing, and moving between different counterparties and providers is going to be an inevitable and frequent occurrence. And so there will be a significant amount of pure user on-chain data regardless. The hybrid route opens the door to a relatively fast deployment of fully generalized Ethereum style smart contracts inside a quasi layer 2 architecture. For any inquiries about having Vitalik advise your ICO, go ahead and email him at noreply@buterin.com. Maybe that's a joke, maybe that's real. It's Vitalik. Check it out if you're interested. If you have a coin. DeFi mania continues. Some tokens show over 300% returns since January 1st. While token markets may be overbought in the short term, many analysts believe that the boom is just beginning. Here we can see all the protocols that finance magnates highlighted. Nice, nice. They seem to have their eye on the ball. Video games and crypto. What's the hype? How can cryptocurrency change the gaming world? Blockchain is actively penetrating games and decentralized apps, becoming truly successful products. Every month, up to 50 new blockchain-based applications appear on the market, and the number of users downloading dApps reaches 66,000 per day. Let's take a look at how the presence of cryptocurrency changes games, and also talk about the main flaws that gaming digital assets have. Tokens provide a guarantee of real property, ability to create a gaming multiverse, no intermediaries between players. Cryptocurrency generally improves the gaming experience. Some of the disadvantages they highlight is real market solutions, though if you build a very good game, that ERC20 token is going to be valuable. India plans to introduce new law to ban Bitcoin and other private cryptocurrencies. Brought to you by Tech Church. In the agenda published on the lower house website, the legislation seeks to prohibit all private cryptocurrencies in India, but allow for certain exemptions to promote the underlying technology of cryptocurrency and its uses. The law also seeks to create a facilitative framework for creation of official digital currencies that will be issued by the nation's central bank, Reserve Bank of India, the agenda said. This proposal was challenged by several exchanges and traders who filed a lawsuit in the Supreme Court. The nation's apex court ruled in their favor last year. This ruling was seen as historic, but it did not impact the earlier circular on the policy level. It seems that Dogecoin is being the one most talked about. Bitcoin, XRP seems to have some relevance until it becomes untradeable due to the lawsuit. Ethereum and various other coins are being discussed on Reddit. Interesting. What's in your chalice? Comment below. Don't forget to like, subscribe. Have a good one.